25.
Neat. 429.
All right. Close enough.
Call us to order at 429. And hello. I feel like I just saw y'all because I did. Just a, short 48 hours ago, it seems like 72. All right, well, I think emailed you that Josh was not gonna be here. Clearly that was incorrect. So Logan is the only one who is missing today. He had to be out of town with work. And I would like to make a motion to approve the October meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All a vote. Anyone opposed? Any questions?
Nope and nope.
Excellent. All right. So just quickly, financial updates, and I didn't get the last email from Ann. I was asking her questions back, but just loosely, I put the budget sheet on here. I know we just had our event, so this is a very fast turnaround. Scott, there's an agenda there. There's some, I think, left on the table if y'all need. Were there two there for you?
Yes.
Perfect. So we had $886.71 encumbered, so the available balance is $1,158.25 right now. That does include the Arbor Day purchases for Roll and Play, Randy's, Crossman, also the physical plant. They did the install for the celebration bricks for us. That has been paid as well. I do want to go back to, I have Sam's and Sam's and Amazon listed as being paid, but I think actually that will come out of the P card statement next month. So looking at our available balance of $11.58, I do know that we still owe our Yogi $100 out of that. That invoice is pending. We will have the cost of canvas prints for the photo contest.
Which would probably be like $80. They're like $20 a pop when we're in 3, so I don't know what shipping and all that stuff will be.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's under 100 for sure.
Okay, and then, so the two unknowns would be the Sam's purchase and Amazon, so that's probably gonna put it around like 3. I didn't get the totals before I got here, so about 3. So we're looking probably, I would say safely about 500 or 520 still needing to come out of this balance. And that's as good as I can get it today on this sheet. So a little bit of funds remaining, so y'all would have that.
That's pretty close, so.
Oh, the other piece, I'm sorry.
No, you're saying we're supposed to spend all of our money and we can't really do it.
The other piece is
Oh, we can order more trees.
Yeah, we can absolutely use that to order more trees.
$250 sponsorship from Native State. I did follow up today, and that they have not sent yet, so that will also be added into
Nice.
the ending budget, so you'll have a little more funds on that.
So, questions about this.
Yes.
So if we're looking at the actual budget itself, so if we're it's 1160 minus 500, so we're at like 660 plus 250 from Native State. So we're looking at roughly $900. That needs to be spent by end of year, correct?
No, I think it rolls.
It can roll over.
It can roll over.
It has to be appropriate. It may not be available on the on the very first of the year, but it'll be voted back in and appropriate.
Whenever the spending freezes up.
Yeah.
Cool. That was
Typically.
accurate.
Which I need to stop by Tommy's or Randy's and talk to Tommy because I gotta resubmit our ticket because some of our bags were not up to par. And so we only had about 6 that were, truly 3 that were actually good, 6 that we were able to salvage total. So the other, I can't remember how many we ordered, those will come off of our bill. So I'll have him get us an updated one.
Or if he wants to replace them since the PO may be there, so if he wants to just I don't know.
Oh,
That's more of a
I mean, I'd be
hassle.
fine with
But
just
if
replacing them
yeah.
if that's
I'll ask him,
acceptable.
see if he wants to do that.
We can always use them to give out.
Oh, I don't wanna get rid of the merch in general.
Yeah.
I also don't wanna pay for bags that we couldn't open.
Exactly, yeah. It's one or the other. We either want the refund or we want them replaced. I think replacing is fine.
And then you'll have a few giveaways to kind of start for any volunteer.
Yeah.
We had a few bandanas and I think there's 1 or 2 bags in there. And a few things left. Oops. Okay, so Arbor Day hindsighting, I do have to say, give Pulse which is a volunteer platform that UCA uses, but it is open to the community at large. So I would like to give someone permissions for that and just suggest that y'all use that for ongoing efforts. We had 14 volunteers from UCA show up, so that was a real win. Actually, we had so many volunteers this year, I had to like pry the popcorn holder out of my husband's hand and make him step away from a task because we had enough people to do that. You know, we were pretty fortunate this year. So, any hindsighting, anything you guys want to share? Takeaways?
Actually, speaking of bags, that was the only and it wasn't a negative really, but a few people, because a lot of the different exhibitors, like the kids were doing little crafty things and picking up stuff, and they didn't have a bag to put it in. So
Bags would have been a good way to go,
So
start at the
bag,
table.
art.
But in that case, we wouldn't necessarily wanna do, would we wanna do those kind of canvas bags like we did the big ones, or would we wanna do something small like paper bags that are
Probably
recyclable?
for everybody, probably do something smaller.
One of those fold up little totes, something reusable, but you could, that is a good idea. You could give
they're
it
those
Definitely not
string
plastic.
backpack things.
Definitely not plastic.
Um,
Well, unless we're using reusable, yeah.
We were discussing last time the collapsible bags, that could potentially work. Was it, people that were there wanting bags for the things that they kept, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were lots of giveaways and activities and crafts that people were
Yeah, and the
toting
parents were like
and eating a hot dog and carrying
Frisbees
things.
and-
Yeah.
Cost efficiency, we could probably do large-ish paper bags,
Yeah.
and just keep a giant stack of them at, say, the main table. But we could also
You could let the
do-
kids decorate them.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah, especially with
I mean,
like
yeah.
tree impressions and like
And,
crayons and
Yeah,
stuff
make
like
it
that.
a recycled paper bag.
And I did hear a couple of folks mentioning t-shirts again. I think they missed the t-shirts. We've gone a couple years without them, so I think, next year.
Yeah,
They
that's the
are,
big
but
problem.
Y'all are starting,
Well,
$800
I was gonna say,
in
if
bags
we're
this
gonna
year,
have
900,
900 plus
so put that- yeah.
surplus
Yeah,
to start, we could do that.
Yeah.
they do like the shirts.
I also wanted to take a look at revamping our logo.
I like the
Having
current,
with
It's
that.
time.
I like the current one, the blue and yellow one. Is that what you're talking about, or the?
No, I'm talking about the three tree
trees.
ones.
Oh, yeah,
Which I think
Even there,
everybody
just
shared
getting something, even if we decide to
That
stick
one.
with that specifically, I've been just saving.
Yeah,
it.
that-
Quite it, it's got 3 trees.
yeah, that one, yeah.
I've just been saving ones that I find, and that way we can have more of an open discussion on which direction we wanna go, or we keep it the same, and even if we keep it the same, just getting it updated to where it just looks a little bit cleaner. Cause we made that on Canva, and there's some things that work okay with it and some that doesn't, especially when you start blowing it up and stuff like that, so.
I think
Just
something a
getting
little
a-
more verdant and lush for trees.
I have
that's for
access
y'all.
to a pro Canva account. And so I can get higher res images, I can do transparent backgrounds, I can do a lot of the paid for features. If you could just add me to the tree board.
To give you an idea, this is one I found that has a bunch of different ones. It doesn't have to be this exactly,
Yeah.
but you have those, and then, or you can go with this kind of pattern here, which is like that.
Okay.
Now, obviously, color wise and stuff like that, you can all change.
Oh, yeah, we can play with it
I know
a
it's kind of weird,
ton.
but
I like the idea of
Since
keeping
you
blue and yellow
mentioned
city colors,
Canva,
but yeah.
was
Yeah.
this one right here. where they have a
Yeah, the
bunch of
blue and
different
yellow, that's
options.
a, if I'm not mistaken, City of Conway logo.
Yeah,
obviously you wanna go
We
with
definitely don't
something
have the
that's more
authority to be able to do anything to that.
No, we could use the colors, but we couldn't use their logo at all, yeah.
color wise, you can change.
But I
all
like that,
that.
yeah, those are nice.
While you mentioned Canva, so
Yeah.
the tree board has a Canva Pro free account.
Nice.
So also, we need to get you added, but it goes to the tree board email. I can't approve anyone in, so I'll
Hi,
have to relinquish
can I be
my
added to the
access and-
email?
Yes, email me.
2 years later.
I know.
I think I sent you a
got
thing
Well-
not too long ago that got you on there.
You sent me a thing that allowed me to permission to work on that singular design.
Gotcha.
And I've sent you the
Yes.
link, but I cannot approve it. It
Because it goes to the
tree
email,
board.
right, yeah.
But I don't have the
Email
permissions.
you.
I think there was a hiccup somewhere. Natalie did set that up through the tree board for us a couple years ago, and I think Lauren has had, but I don't know if we've tried it since there's been transition.
Lauren
But
still
anyway.
has it. I get the emails, but I don't ever
Okay.
So I'll email you to be added to the tree board email, and that should allow me to then reach out to y'all to add me to the tree board Canva team, which will then send me the email, which I will then have the email to then approve.
Me and Ryan can get
But
it figured out.
Jesus,
They'll get it
okay,
figured
cool.
I'm gonna relinquish mine. I didn't do anything with it much anyway. Okay, so anything else on permissions or anything like that, I guess?
I'd like to be removed from the Facebook group.
Okay, Facebook, so the social admin
Which Bobby
stuff.
has access to that now,
Okay.
so I'm assuming Bobby
And
will
I've
take
got
over.
access.
Yeah, but like we have an actual, so,
You have to have
I mean, we'll
admin
still be on it,
access.
but like Bobby has admin access, so I'm assuming he's gonna go through.
I actually think that's healthy,
And removing
to have
people.
staff.
I have admin access and I tried to remove myself and it's like, you can't actually remove yourself if you're an
I'm sure
admin.
Bobby will be able to figure that out. Cause then we'll have to get whoever's new access to it and stuff like that. But I know that Felicia and Bobby reached out to me to make sure that he was on it.
Okay, alright. So social media, for sure, I'll need to be removed from the emails too, so emails, alright. Okay, I'm sure they'll do a whole review for that. Anything else y'all can think of? Google Drive, probably.
Oh yeah, I don't have access to
Permissions
that
and
anymore,
ownership, I'll
technically.
transfer ownership to my,
I was gonna
anything that I
say,
have.
before anybody is removed from email or Google Drive, please go through and see if you are the owner to anything.
Yeah.
And if you are, you need to transfer ownership to somebody else or the other, like.
Yeah.
Cause otherwise, if you go and you still retain ownership,
Yeah.
you retain that document and we no longer have access.
Absolutely. Yes, so I will do that. And I know, just a reminder, if any of you took photos from Arbor Day, upload those into the folder. I'll go back through and make sure all my photos from the years
Yeah, I should have
are
photos in there.
shared too, because I have a bunch of them I need to get rid of. So I will do that. Anything else? Sorry, that was a weird tangent from Arbor Day into what do we need to pass off here. So I would just say, taking us back to Arbor Day, I think everything was very smooth. So grateful for Parks and Rec. Seriously, we could not do this without. We could, it
Everyone was
would be
so
a huge challenge.
cooperative, yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta get some good staff out there.
Yeah.
I know that me and Chris have talked about maybe next year not worrying about planting the tree exactly on the day.
Yeah, I can't decide because it actually
was
ended
so
up kind
fun.
of good,
No.
but it didn't feel like it was gonna be like. It just like it doesn't flow with the rest of the activities very well, and everybody's always like, when are we gonna plant the tree? When are we gonna plant the tree?
That are, as soon as we get done talking, like the last thing we need to say is like, especially this year,
Yeah.
it worked out really good
That's
where
how
people were able to kind of do
usually
it.
done it, but then they wanted Smokey to come out, and that takes the forestry guys. Actually, it took my attention too because there was
You're
a
the escort.
young girl who I don't want to say too much, but I needed to be a chaperone.
Yes, yeah.
Well, even
Yeah, I
when
think-
Smokey's in the costume, whoever it is
They need
can't
a
really
handler.
see.
Yeah, they need
so
a
it's
handler.
good to have.
I will
So-
say, it was a successful tree plant. There were a lot of kids who came and had
Yeah, it worked
interest,
out,
so
and it was
really good.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
just.
sometimes we don't get that lucky.
Yeah,
That's the problem, and that there's the potential for something to go wrong. To like you're like, you know. So I don't know.
Even if it's more of like a ceremonial like deal, to where if we are having Girl Scouts do it, like we just have them like shovel.
We could have it
Over stuff
mostly
that's, like,
filled
mostly
in.
lit, yes.
Yeah.
At least
and just have
especially
a
like where the
little
root
pile.
ball is and stuff like that, cause I know that's where Harold was like really struggling to make sure that got full,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Maybe just reevaluating how much of the tree is planted pre-event,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
especially
more like a
weather-wise and
ceremonial-
stuff like that.
And then there's the issue with water and because we actually had thought about kind of pre-planting it on the Friday, but we didn't have a hose that day the tree actually needed water. The actual tree in the pot needed water, and I was using the little dog water thing, and it took like 10 minutes to get 4 inches of water. So
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be something to keep in mind for next time too, is maybe have a hose that day.
when
Yeah.
the tree arrives.
Has anyone here helped with the tree giveaway component of the event in the past? I was really surprised. We had a good third of the trees that had been reserved. The individuals that reserved them didn't come to pick them up. And
My hindsighting.
it was, whenever I sent out the confirmation email to all the recipients, I blind carbon copy all of the recipients because I'm not gonna send people other people's information. What that meant during the event, I wasn't able to just hit reply all, don't forget to pick up your trees today. And so
I will say we notified them earlier last year, so they had a little more time. So that would be my suggestion is we need to, like, on the day of shut off, or make sure that it's like a week in advance. And plus, it was a very
It was, like,
busy,
multiple
active weekend.
Weekend,
People
yeah.
were pulled, and that tends to be the case with the first weekend of November, but I think having local games and all of the extracurriculars.
Would it have worked better to have the time to pick up, like the deadline to pick up be earlier and then start like
That's what I was thinking.
giving them away to whomever, like any that aren't claimed by a certain time?
I had seen the email that you'd sent me as a template and it was wonderful and fantastic, and so I just hit copy paste. Let's not reinvent the wheel. But it was dated for November 1st and the previous event was November
I think that was a
4th.
reply for something. I don't
Okay.
think that was the original email that I sent you. Cause I think they had like a week's notice.
I
And
think sending it a couple of times. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, a couple of times. And I mean, like, so what we did this time was, it was lovely. We had a slow trickle of people coming to pick up their trees the entire time, which I wasn't expecting. I fully
But they all get
expected
there
a
at once.
mad dash at the front end, but it was slow and steady throughout the whole event. And throughout the event, as we're having people come up being like, what's going on? We want a tree. And I'm like, come back at 1. We can give away any that, have been forfeited. And so at 1, we started releasing and all trees were given away by 1:03.
Yeah, so it worked out fine.
It did. It wasn't problematic. I just wasn't sure if
there were a lot
There-
more this year that were left, and I think part of it is the
it
activity that was
surprised
going on.
me.
But it may actually be helpful to do an earlier pickup. Now, that just means we have to set up and be ready to go. But stopping
I
from
mean,
11
we were
to
ready
1
to go
during a day.
early.
Yeah,
Especially
We were
with
ready plenty early this
We
time.
got there
We
too
did
early.
good.
With how many volunteers we had, all of our tables were set up, trees unloaded, we were sitting twiddling our thumbs for an hour. And
Yeah, I had to keep telling volunteers we don't have anything for you to do right now. Would you please go ask over here, go ask over there, go check over there. If nobody needs help, come back. Once we get started, and we'll give you somewhere else to go.
So
Yeah.
those volunteers kept coming to us and being like, do you need help? And I'm like, in an hour.
Yeah, that was the
Like,
thing. Yeah.
I'm good until we start.
Yeah.
We could also look at so if we order, say, 100 trees, just reserving 75. Because I know that you said that we had a couple, we were supposed to get X amount of this tree, and we got less of that tree. And so some people are gonna show up to pick up a certain tree that we didn't have that many.
That's a good
So
point.
if we do
Have
100, do about 3/4 of those as reservation trees, and that way we protect ourselves from that happening.
Yeah.
But also then we have a small handful of trees that we can give out that day to just random people who show up and want
Yeah.
a tree. Cause then it's a little different than a sapling. If you look up and see a bigger tree,
yeah, if we advertise that, the line would be very,
I wouldn't advertise that. It would just be more of oh, hey, what is this going on? Oh, do you want a tree? Yeah.
I like that, especially if we kind of combine all of these ideas, start distributing the reserve trees an hour before the actual event starts. We do that for still, say, 2 hours, so an hour before the first hour, and that allows the second hour of during the event for us to be able to have trees to give away, and it would still be the same rules of, 1 per household or whatever we're doing for the
you
reservations.
can also not do pre-registration. If you
Just let it
want
be
people
first
to
come,
show
first
up,
served.
first come,
It used to be that way.
Yeah.
I do really like the
I mean,
pre-reservation factor.
I prefer it because I think it makes people think a little bit more, like have a plan.
Guaranteed.
You just grab a tree because
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
Because, as you pointed out, we had a list of what we ordered, the species, and how many of each species we ordered, and we received 9 extra persimmon and 5 short of pecan trees and a couple short mulberry. And so while the overall number was in fact what we paid for, the individual species counts were a little wonky. And so for a lot of people, I would be like, I'm really short for pecan, but I've got a ton of persimmon. And so I would be like, hey, persimmon closed before y'all were able to like request a vote for it. Would you like that instead? And they always would be like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, you've got time to think about it. Like,
The
okay.
trees aren't going anywhere.
Like you can
Especially with those
call-
fruiting trees, so like say you already had a pecan tree in your yard, well then
Yes.
that really hurts you because you need at least 2.
And that was the case a lot of times of I would offer it and they'd be like, nope, we've got pecans, we want pecan. And I'm like, absolutely, that's what you reserved, here's your tree. But a lot of times they were just like, we don't have anything, we just want trees, we didn't know this was an option. Neat. But yeah, having it be a reservation and it's not, I'm not a big fan of pressure to make a decision right now. I want to think it through and I want them to, so.
Like I said, it's sold out so quick that you could limit how many you give away, and that way we can still kind of save not only ourselves from looking foolish, but also people like that who are like, I really need this kind of tree.
Well, and I will say we need to keep in mind that we may not always get that price for the trees. That is really,
Well, because it
Cheap.
doubled this year. We
Yeah.
thought we were gonna be able to get more, and then the price had doubled already,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
We're still at the 100.
so, I mean, we're saying we're gonna do this in the future, but I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully.
Does it help
Maybe
if
to
you
get
order them
fewer
earlier?
trees.
Just doesn't matter, just depends.
Just kind of what the market demands and how successful their
It
years
depends
have
on
been.
like the climate that year. and
Yeah.
Yeah, and shipping costs and I don't know, yeah.
It'd be cool if we could order them like at the beginning of the year and just have somewhere to hold them until we're ready to give them away. But that is a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. I was gonna
So,
say, what if we,
Long ago, the tree board had a nursery.
I would say, what if we get some of
And
those bare root seedlings at the beginning of the
did
year
grow
and
their
planted
own
them,
trees.
and then at the end of the year give them away, you know?
Yeah.
But
History
we don't have to
lesson,
store them.
please?
What?
I said history lesson, please? What?
So actually, when the tree board was started, I don't know like in what year, but for years, the tree board grew their own trees to give away at Arbor Day.
See.
And they had a little nursery space on some city property that the tree board members would go water and take care of it. But it's really, I mean,
That's very
there is a
labor
reason why
intensive.
nursery trees are expensive.
Yeah, no, but that's very labor intensive.
Yes, and water intensive. And
Um,
a lot of things can go wrong, you know, windstorm messes
yeah.
things up, and you know,
People get sick and there's holidays and
the
nobody
irrigation
wants,
breaks during a drought.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was it just land that we and like a hose spigot, or was it like a greenhouse setup?
It was just land and a hose.
Cool. No thanks.
Yeah, see, a greenhouse setup where like we could take some of those bare root seedlings from March and put them in pots and then give them away in November
Well, that's basically what they did, but
Yeah.
without a greenhouse.
would be a nice setup.
And then there were also a few years in there where the Conway High School grew them. But
Yeah.
again, they don't have people there in the summer,
Yeah.
so it becomes an issue.
Anything else from Arbor Day you want to discuss? Good. Moving on, okay.
People love the stickers. I'll say that.
stickers.
Absolutely love the stickers.
Yeah.
Less of the yoga stickers, more of every other sticker.
I mean, it makes sense. It wasn't a dedicated yoga only event.
Well, those were left over from the year, and we had to cancel a couple of events.
Yeah.
Or had low turnout and canceled an event, and so,
I think the stickers are fun.
yep.
They're
stickers are
great.
fun.
People love them.
So, okay, this is a random tangent and not on the agenda, but since you talked about watering and maintenance, just a suggestion for next year's board, for volunteer efforts, having some scheduled times to go out and inspect the trees that we've already planted and having a core group of folks who are available or scheduled times to go out and check on them, because I get very concerned about the trees. And so far, many of them have done well, but I think about some places we've planted that's like, get a core group, just maintenance. If we planted a commitment for those first 2 years of a regular schedule to get out there, because I know we've kind of bucket and water and bagged some, but not on a consistent basis. That'll help with mortality.
It's interesting. I thought it'd be easy to like get water out of Tucker Creek to water those trees.
Yeah.
No, it is a
There's
steep
nowhere
drop
to
off.
start.
No, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I agree, which I've not even
You
been
need
down
like a
there
hose and a
lately,
pump
but-
and,
Well, and it's hold my hand, don't let me fall in.
and that's assuming that there's water in Tucker Creek, because when it's dry, there's just
Exactly.
nothing.
Yeah.
Or it's stagnant or whatever, you know.
Skylar did mention you're putting in more concrete pads for benches, and there would be maybe some opportunities. It'd be nice to
Yeah.
go back along the
They're putting
trail
we
and
put
get
in some
trees.
grants for benches,
Yeah,
so I haven't heard back from that, and now our experience with this kind of grant lets me know that it's not as quick as one would think.
Right.
So I haven't heard back if we've gotten that grant for benches yet or not, but I know that community-wise, people have been asking the parks to put in more benches along that trail.
Yeah.
so the more opportunity for that, so. Okay, so we do have two, so moving on kind of to grant discussions. We'll jump down, so the Urban Community Forestry Grant, this will be a faster conversation, so unless Ryan has info I don't know about. We have not heard back. But we did attend on October 29th. Krista, Felicia, Robbie, and I were all on the call, and it was basically just logistics and operations kind of information about how to submit reimbursements and things. But basically what we learned during that call was that we made it to the next round. There were too many applicants to fully fund everyone as requested. So part of what Forestry Division is doing right now is they're going back to review the grant requests, see what they can fund, what they can't, and they will come back to the board with suggestions on funding
Budget.
amounts or how can we pull back. So I'm not sure that we will get full funding. Doesn't sound like we will. So there'll be more discussion on that, so they'll let us know once we've heard back, and it sounds like it'll be in the next week or two. But you know, that's opportunity for match funding, or you know, we did ask for every single thing.
Okay, we intentionally asked for the most we could, so that if we don't get all
Yeah.
of that, we still have a lot of options available.
With them not being able to fully fund everyone, I'm assuming their intention is to partially fund everyone.
Well, that's how it sounded.
versus-
That's what
Okay.
it sounded like.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if it was that or some
But
of them aren't funded.
Without
the
an actual
remainings.
grant agreement, I feel
Like
a
it's
little
subject
hesitant.
to change, but they did say during that call that their intent is not to take, like, let's say, for example, the top three and fully fund them and leave everyone else out. They really
Okay.
want to do as much funding across the board to all applicants now. Get the feeling there were several really large projects that were requested, so we'll see. But anyway, so more to come on that. And then, so that's pending, and then the other piece is the Interfaith Power and Light Fruit Tree Grant for the McGee Community Center. We really need to get rolling on that. There's been discussion about amounts of trees. I did hear back from Brian, he wants no more than 30 trees put on that property, and so we have choices to go larger. We can do a mix of sizes of trees. We have decided that blackberries are not a good, it's not a, and we've already talked about that, not a good location there, but I've talked to the grantor and they're totally fine. We're gonna still purchase the blackberries, we're gonna give them to the Urban Farm Project at the Faulkner County Library because their mission is to feed people.
Good.
So.
And they'll maintain them.
They'll
the way they
maintain
want to.
them, and then we'll have access, like Krista can do a teaching garden there, opportunity, so, so we'll do a little bit of a partnership with them. So blackberries will go to the Urban Farm Project, and we talked about a couple of other species of trees that we will, include when we make our purchase and share, because the whole intent is feed the community, get food out to folks. And so Sean's a really good steward of that, and that'll be put to really good use there. But as far as McGee Center, we need to get moving on this. And so my question to the current board and then to the ongoing board is, do y'all want to try to do something quickly it's just gonna be a tree planting? Do we wanna try to make something happen in December? Would y'all rather put that into when? January? I mean, it's gotta happen before March, right?
Yeah.
Ish. So, thoughts?
And I mean, we can plant safely through February.
Yeah.
In some ways, the weather's nicer now.
Yeah, I was gonna
But,
say,
like,
the
but you don't know
question
how
is-
long it's gonna hold out.
Right.
My vote would be plan to do the planting January, and then we have February to fall back on. And by doing it January, that means we could also have our new board members be able to participate in the planting
Something right
itself.
away.
And that will give the remaining board time to review it if we haven't been as active on that and don't really have time to review the emails
So we're already
and
behind in
the.
quarterly reporting with them, so we've got to report something and give some action on what we're doing. You do have it's 2 years to complete that project.
Okay.
But, we need to make a decision on what's gonna happen. So we can report something back to them.
So decision would be to purchase and plant in January pending weather, and if weather's
Cause it will take some
unfavorable.
time to actually purchase the trees too.
Right, but we
Yeah.
need to agree on this, I know that's kinda gone back and forth, we need to make a decision and get a purchase going.
Does that decision need to be made now, or can the decision be made in January?
Do we need to
Well,
have
then
like
if
a
you-
I
subsequent
would think we
Say-
can order in
Do we need to have a
December
special
now.
committee
We need
meeting
to go
about it?
ahead and make a decision, because I opened the grant, requested the grant, I don't wanna leave that to linger. I mean, that's a.
Okay.
It's gonna take
So
a
we
while
need
to
to
order
make
them.
the
I'd rather
decision
go ahead and
now.
order them now,
Yeah.
and then if they come in December, we can plant them then, or if we wanna wait until January.
Perfect, okay.
Cause a
So-
part of me also would rather have, it'd be good to have the new boards members have something to do, but
Yeah.
also I'm looking after the current members who are about to cycle off.
Yeah.
And this would
Yeah,
be
there-
like their last little,
And there are
project.
some other workday opportunities, like we talked about doing kind of a pruning workshop on the McGee trees, cause they're big enough
They need a
now
lot.
that
They
they
need
could
help
use a
pruning.
little maintenance.
Okay.
And that
And
could be
it's
done
not
like
even
in
that I need to
March.
participate in it, but I need to make sure we've got
Yeah, no, absolutely.
something solid to get
I know, but
to
still,
the
it's like,
grantor before.
that's something that everyone currently
So-
was here to do, and that'd be a good like little final send off for a handful of you guys.
So let's discuss it. You said max of 30 trees. We are doing blackberry, but it's not gonna be planted at
Is that coming in our
location.
30, or is that just, we're gonna buy those and then?
No, I mean, gosh, so we had got a quote for like 100 and something trees. So it's a $2,000 grant, and I wrote in $500 of that to go just to anything ancillary, right? So if we need water bags, if we need soil, if we need, or not soil, mulch. I wrote in for gloves for the volunteers, which will get the tree
You
board
said-
gloves.
500?
So $1,500 towards trees and, yeah. we've
So
got
1,500 for
$1,500.
plants, and that will include the blackberry.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I can't remember, there were 2 species of trees we talked to Sean about that I can't remember right now.
I feel like I remember seeing pear
It was
on
fair.
there, and then.
There's
was it
pear, mulberry,
goldenberry or something like that?
persimmon
Yeah.
that we were talking about, and we actually talked about some figs at,
Mm.
but they really have to be in the drier areas.
So.
I'd say getting some bigger ones that actually like will start
Yeah, let's get some more
looking like
mature
we
trees.
planted like actual trees. Even if we don't reach that 30 mark, especially with us like setting aside some just blackberries for the library, which is cool. So that way, even if we ordered like 10 bigger trees or something like that, or you go 12, and that way you have an even 6 of one species, 6 of another, and try to help that.
So pear as in we want to do pear, and then the second species, well, how many species are we wanting to do?
Whatever we think will work over
Okay.
there.
Is pear native? Okay.
Most traditional fruits are not native. That's why I'm not strictly a native person. Like we would
No,
starve to death.
absolutely. My
Yeah.
yes. Well, my knee jerk towards native is simply coming from if it's native, we probably don't have to water it as often, and like easier maintenance for the tree itself.
When pesticides, that's why we said no
Yeah,
apples,
that's
right?
the problem with
More
so many of the
resistant.
traditional fruits. Is, yeah, pests. But there are some pears, fruiting pears that
Do well in our
I mean,
area.
you think about like old homesteads will often have the pear tree and they're not doing anything
Peaches
special to
do
it.
really well in Arkansas, I guess. Or do they not?
Not without pesticides.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Again, there's a
I think
reason
about,
why
like,
we
peach
pay a
orchards,
lot.
you know.
There's a reason why we pay a lot for those farm fresh peaches.
And I know specifically with peaches, you can have peaches chemically heavily managed for a while, and then I want to say like at a certain point you just aren't producing peaches anymore. Is
I guess
that
that's why
just
the orchard shut
due
down.
to like heavy nutrient depletion of the soil, or
If they take care of them well, they can produce
Okay.
for quite a while.
Okay.
They just, there was a professor, a former professor at U of A who said that a peach tree starts dying in Arkansas the day you plant it.
Oh, nice.
Kind of fair.
Yeah.
The pears are good. I think there's already persimmon trees out there at McGee in certain areas of that
Did
park.
we, you, like big ones, you mean?
Yeah. So,
I couldn't remember if we planted any. We planted some
Okay, helps or
pecans, but I
hurts.
don't think we planted,
I don't think we planted
persimmons.
anything, yeah.
I think persimmons could be good. I mean, a lot of people don't really want to eat persimmons, but it's possible.
Okay.
And what about the pawpaw?
Would it do well in the area?
Because it's wet.
So the pawpaws are really difficult. They really want shade when they're young. So, because they actually are an understory tree.
Mhm.
So I don't think they do that well in that open.
Because we don't have
Area.
large enough trees up
So
there.
what are our options, basically? Pears?
Mulberries would do really well, and
mulberries.
persimmons would do well, and we could do some pears. And then the figs, I think we could find some drier spots to
Yeah.
put some figs.
Can we do serviceberry and elderberry? Or no?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that
Elderberry's
one vendor did
odd,
not
though.
have them, but we can source them somewhere.
You know, elderberry's not really a tree; it's more of a
It's a
bush,
bush.
and it's massive,
Mhm,
and it makes a thicket.
mhm. So that also, we don't wanna have that there, because that would be not good maintenance.
So does the library.
But
That
we
might work better at the
could,
library, actually.
I was gonna say add it to the blackberry that we're putting over at the library.
We can ask and see if he wants some of that.
I would almost look and see how much you're gonna spend on the blackberries, and then whatever you have left, figure out what your realistic
So I don't think we got
options
a
are.
quote on blackberries, did we? She didn't have them.
It was, but I can't remember.
Oh, she did have them?
Need
It was the elderberry and serviceberry she didn't have.
Oh, okay.
So
blackberry I can dig out of
Let
my
me get
yard.
30 trees max.
That's what we're doing at
At
McGee,
McGee.
so we don't have to get to 30 at McGee.
And again, you've got 2 years, but we just need to start something. We need to have some action going on the grant. We don't have to finalize it.
In some ways, it might be better to hold off on the figs because they aren't as winter hardy. They actually might do better getting planted in March.
Okay. Well, I was thinking if
And
we're
blackberries can be planted in March.
doing 30 trees max. We've spoken of 3 main species, pear, mulberry, and persimmon, that should do really well in the area. Easier maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. We could go shoot for 10 per.
And when they, like,
We talked about nuts too. Didn't we talk about adding another nut tree out there? I know, because we already have pecan.
Black walnut?
Not a walnut.
so hard they're so hard
Yeah.
to open.
Okay, then don't do
I think
And you
pecans
know,
are,
so she gave us a
Maybe that's
quote
a
on
mallet. It's
mulberry,
anger
is that right?
management.
But I wonder if it's just the native.
There.
that. And these were all just 3-gallon tree, which we can go large. either.
Hickory.
We can do a combination of large and small.
Nobody
But-
eats those. They
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
For most of your nut trees, I feel like it's a little harder to harvest. That might just be a personal.
So I actually think on the mulberry we should get hybrid mulberries because they're much more edible, and this the idea is to feed people.
Yes.
I do really like persimmon because it's also a shorter tree, and so from a picking standpoint, it'd be easier than
They're still pretty big.
they're still pretty big. But comparing to like a red mulberry, in my head is massive, and so it would be easier to pick a persimmon.
Some of the hybrid mulberries aren't that big. In fact, some are small.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are we wanting to add another nut? If we do, what would it be? Because hickory is the one I can think of. Black walnut's a pain.
I think hickory is a pain too, and people just don't think they're food.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're edible, but they're like so hard to get into. Like you don't
Yeah.
expend more calories trying to open the nuts than what you
Yeah.
could consume. I mean, just so this is the issue with this whole like food forest ideas. It's hard to come up with things that grow without a lot of care and will produce food that people actually want to eat.
I don't think your pear trees would be one of your big money makers there.
And fig.
So I don't know how
Yeah.
big you can go though. So like I said, a lot of it
Big
is
as you
beat on
can.
money. I have no idea how much a bigger tree would cost. So
Well,
like
it'd be
we're naming
pretty
out like
expensive.
7 different species. So like,
Yeah,
did you
well, and I
actually
don't think
buy
she
enough of
listed what
those?
varieties of pears they had either. And I'd like to know.
Pear, but it didn't say.
I'd like to know the varieties before we purchase anything.
So can I
Yeah, I could.
pass that on?
Do you want me to talk with?
To you, I mean, cause you
Amos?
would know more
Okay.
than me about what's appropriate.
Okay.
But I think that if we could get size options, cause obviously thinking about harvest times too, if we're buying all these small trees, like it
Takes
would be
longer.
nice to get larger, but again, we've talked about mortality dependent on size and how do they do, right? So maybe a combination of sizes of each of the 3 or 4 species, which fig, if you wanna wait to plant till spring, totally fine.
It sounds like this would be if it's up to Krista, 'cause I don't want to put more on her plate. But if you're good with spending the next 2 months freely looking at what trees we can actually do, that way come January, we can decide fully which ones we're gonna buy. But that way, it sounds like it's gonna be a lot more than just like, hey, we're good to buy trees today. We don't know what that looks like. And so that's where I would take the recommendation of our tree
I agree.
expert. And then
Cause I have no idea.
Oh, I don't either. I could say a lot to you, but I mean, that's about it.
I'll give Donna a call and I'll ask her.
And it's different of what we're gonna do in our home and then what needs to be maintained
Right.
publicly and then because part of the agreement is that we will help share education and communication on when it's foraging time, right? So,
That's a good point too,
Yeah.
of trying to have different species that produce at different times. So like I know persimmon is a fall to winter crop. And so it's later in the season. Mulberry, I'm
It's early
assuming
summer.
is,
Persimmons are gonna be September,
yeah.
early October.
It was early.
Early summer for mulberry.
Pear and fig.
Figs midsummer, pears probably August to September. So it is actually
It's a pretty good stretch.
Yeah, no, that's
I
awesome.
would say if we'd go for like those 4
Yeah,
and then try to get a good variety of more mature versus smaller ones.
now
And
my,
then whatever we have left over, trying to get these blackberries.
and elderberry,
Yeah,
those
whichever
2
ones we wanna do
species.
for the
yeah,
library.
we'll ask her
So,
about elderberry.
Yeah, let's make sure
now-
they're good with that before we just give them a big old thicket.
Yeah,
That'd be a very good
for
gift.
all 4 of those tree species, I'm assuming they all require a male and a female tree.
It always helps.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily male and female, they just, because they have the flowers on the same plant, but they just need, well, not all of them, persimmon doesn't.
Right, that's why I was
Yeah.
like, there's so many options.
But yes, it's always good to have multiple trees for
Okay.
any fruit or nut.
We need to have a minimum of 4, I would imagine,
Yeah,
4 of each.
because I mean, if we're doing 30 max, it's roughly 7 to 8 per species. And so depending on yield per species and prices, some of them could be 6, some of them could be 8. We could do and I like the idea of a variety of ages, therefore a variety
Figs
of
don't need
sizes.
pollination.
Nice. And that also makes it easier in planning where on the plot to plant all of these different things. No, that's awesome. Okay.
So everyone's good with Krista kind of doing the hard work for us as far as,
It's
And then what
it's
I'll-
Krista good with doing
That's
this.
fine, that's fine.
Well, and then dependent on availability and then when we can then get back out to plant,
Yeah.
right? And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll place an order for some gloves because we did get a
Wonderful.
quote. I'll make sure, I'll verify the quote and I'll send that out to y'all, but I think they were like $5 for a set and I'll have the tree board logo, which I don't know if I'll do a new logo. Or if we wanna keep the same one on there for now. But can go ahead and order that and if we wanna do like water bags or it's really not needed at McGee initially. Trunk guards is what we needed out there.
We have trunk guards.
Okay, so,
We still have quite a lot.
okay. And then the other piece is that we'll need some signs designed to kind of go around the community garden. That says we have to differentiate between what is free foraging and what is open for the community. And so that was part of the agreement with them. Now landing on what that verbiage needs to look like has been more of a challenge, so we just need to,
I'm happy to help design the signs.
Okay.
We'll then, I'm assuming, need to pay to have them created.
yes, that
and
was
I'm-
part of the agreement. Yeah.
I was
so
gonna
we'll
say,
do
I don't
that.
know if we want like a metal sign or like speed limit-esque metal signs, if it's gonna be like a vinyl hanging thing or.
Now, the yard signs of that are illegal and also don't
They
last.
blow away.
Well, yeah, no, like I was
Yeah.
So go with the
thinking more
metal
some
ones.
like
Permanent.
Tree City flag
And-
or like vinyl loose
So-
hanging flag.
Do you have that big wooden, it's empty, but there's like a big wooden structure out there that looks like it's a place for sign or communicating some rules that maybe we just need to have, but
I don't know if they're
I can get
still,
with Brian on that and see if we can figure out where a good place to put those in.
well, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but the high school welding shop, the class used to make signs. And you just pay for the materials and they make them for free.
So
do a good job.
they
Yeah, the
would like
construction-
cut them for us or like
Probably
they
not.
do
Probably
They do
printing?
all of it, they paint, they cut, they do all the things.
Well, that's a teaching opportunity
Yeah,
and
it's a welding
like,
class.
that's awesome.
yeah.
They do amazing work.
Even if they didn't do phenomenal, like they're learning and that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do a good job and it's a huge, do you have contacts for that?
I think that's changed hands. Did he retire?
Yeah, Mr. Woods retired. It is now Cody Dyson is the welder.
Okay.
And the construction, class, are they still doing construction on campus? If they are, they used to do projects for us too. They used to build an
think
entire
they
house
shut that
throughout the
down.
year. Did they shut that down?
I
That was
think,
the-
I think
yeah,
they
I'm gonna-
shut that down.
I know
Yeah.
that's been
right, that
shut
was
down
the-
and like, I wanna say Quitman did their last,
No, they all came here. But
Maybe we
they
cut
shut
down
that
the
down.
partnership. Maybe our class is still
The-
doing, but
yeah.
we're no longer doing
The
it for
state
our
shut that
partner.
down.
Is it all, anyway, just
Yeah.
know.
cool,
there
I
might be
know we can maybe
opportunities.
hopefully get a metal sign, okay, cool.
And I'll copy, there's been several emails back and forth
With
about,
Brian.
and the manager of the garden about who needs, well, I'll send you those emails, just so you're kind of in the.
I think with the
get you all
sign is that
caught
we
up.
just keep it super simple.
Yeah.
Like this area, yes, this
Yeah.
area, contact this person.
Yes,
So just making sure that we're all on the same page, pear, mulberry, persimmon, fig, trees. We'll get prices and variant options and look at hybrids and all that kind of stuff, for the McGee Center. And then blackberry and elderberry pending
Possibly,
their
yeah.
like approval, for behind the library or around the library. And all of that is coming out of the grand total of 1,500 for plants, and then 500 for gloves, and then other supplies that we
signage
need.
and, yep,
And
anything else.
so Krista will reach out to, is it Bemis?
Venus.
To get the quote on different sizes for those 4 options of trees and then the 2 bushes, and then we can reconvene in January to decide which we're going to go ahead and purchase. Yes?
Or do we need to
No, I
do
think we
some
need to make that
emails?
decision now. It's the, it
Okay.
would be the day, like, dependent on availability and.
Okay.
I mean, I think the, when to plant them, right, will be based off.
So basically, I have, you're telling me buy whatever trees we think we need, no more than 30 of those species, and I pick the sizes and the varieties, and we've got $1,500 budget.
Yes.
And
Which
if
I think
it's-
that's already been agreed on.
All that's agreed
Yeah.
on, yeah, but it's more so like what's appropriate to plant now, and you said something like fig may be better to plant later, so maybe we just need to show some action, cause we need to start reporting back to the grantor.
Understood.
Depending on how
Doing,
well those
right.
conversations go or how quick they go, if we need to have another meeting sometime in
December.
between now, it doesn't even have to be in December, if she calls
Yeah.
tomorrow and it's like, hey, we're able to do this next week, we can
I
almost
won't
have.
call tomorrow.
I know, you're fine, that's why I said 2
Please and
months.
thank you.
That's why I said 2 months, but I'm saying depending on how fast those go, if we need to do
Yeah, no,
another
that's fair.
meeting where it's like, hey, we're going to get these trees
Yeah.
pretty quickly, then we can just do that.
No, that's a good point. And then, yeah, also who's the point person that we need to discuss elderberry or not with? Is that Sean?
Sean, yeah,
Uh,
I'll reach out to him and see
okay.
if there's a need for that, I can do that.
Cause that will
Otherwise, Krista can
impact.
start going ahead and ordering all those trees.
Yeah,
And then whenever it's appropriate to plant all of these things is when the planting should be set up, so I think it's just a schedule of timeframes, right?
yeah, that
Mhm.
makes sense. Is,
And then-
does it work where we call Bemis and say, hey, we want to buy 10 mulberry and we'll pick them up in January and we pay now? Like, how
Yeah, it
does?
can work.
Okay, cool. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, usually she sources, and they're not always grown at Bemis, like she orders them, and so you tell her what you want, and she finds them, and she'll get back with us and let us know
Well, then, yeah.
sizes and stuff.
We're good there.
Cool, okay, awesome. Okay, so, the other part, I had, anything else on that grant, we good to move on? We're good?
We're good.
Okay, so, board roles in 2025 calendar, we weren't quite sure what we need to do, all of that will wait till January. My only question is, looking at the meeting date for January, when would y'all like to schedule your first meeting, cause there is a holiday. I was looking at that, so January
January 6th would be the day.
6th is the first Monday, so y'all are good with that being the,
Yeah, there's nothing going on there.
okay. Alright, so January 6th will be the next meeting in 2025. And hopefully y'all will know who your board members are then. And I'm so glad, we got more than enough applicants, that makes it very happy.
So, about that, who is able to be retained on our board starting January?
You, me, and Logan.
Yes.
Do we need,
And
do
there
we
was
vote
a
on-
mention, I'm sorry,
I can vote now.
Oh, you can?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
you vote now, and so, the requirements for staff positions, not staff, but like Conway Corp representative, is that gonna continue on? There was kind of conversation that might be difficult to maintain. Okay,
No, as far as I know, that's continuing.
Okay.
It'll just be the 3 at-large
okay,
people being replaced.
alright, perfect.
And so that means we've got 3 positions, and that will be replacing
Me,
or filling
These three right here.
Josh, and
president,
Scott.
vice president?
So this is our last.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanna say thank you to all of you.
It's been so much
Been
fun.
You guys have
fantastic.
all
Yeah.
very.
It's been great.
I'd like to
been
thank
good.
the people of Conway.
It's been proud to serve you. For allowing us to participate. Of course, we will continue. I am not required to attend, but
Yeah.
will gladly attend and wanna see, of course, the Community Foundation grant and the grants through and make sure we're making good on all those, and like I know y'all will.
I'll still show up from time to time when it's like, oh, y'all are getting ready for something big. I might be able to help with that. I'll show up as a
Yeah.
friend of the board. And like, oh, well, here's what we did last time, you know?
Yeah,
I
Just,
love
Yeah.
get in touch with me when we get close to
For
spring tree
seedlings, you-
giveaway.
Yeah, can we still use your freezers,
Oh,
your
yeah.
cooler space?
Yeah.
it's been a great partnership.
Yay, thank you.
Glad Yep.
Those trees just like arrive on my front porch and it'll be like at 8 o'clock at night.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
that
like,
shouldn't be a
help
problem.
Scott.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, it was fantastic during Arbor Day seeing so many friends of the board and former board members, and it's really nice. We want to keep seeing y'all.
Awesome. Well, all right.
Yeah, you guys will always have a place if you want to help.
In 3 years, I might be on the board again.
There you go.
And in the meantime, you can be a very active friend of the board.
That's right.
Please, oh goodness.
I'm gonna be a college student. That's what I'm gonna do.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna keep being a small business owner.
I'm an admitted UCA student, so I actually start in January, yeah.
What
Keep expanding my small
roles
business.
have to be filled? Any roles, very specific roles?
Chair and
I was gonna say, who's gonna be
We'll vote.
chair and vice chair, resident, vice
We'll vote in
president, whatever?
January for those.
I realize we all vote in January. What roles come January are required to be filled versus if we have, say, a treasurer, that'd be great. If not, it's not a huge deal.
Just the three we have now, which are chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Without the time I've been doing, yeah.
so
Okay.
there'll be 3.
Cause Amy was secretary.
And so we need to have chair, vice chair, secretary.
Yes.
And chair needs to be a second year member?
I think everybody has to be it's gonna be you or me that has to get
Like,
two of those
what if
spots.
y'all
Yeah,
want
we're
to
chair and
get
vice chair.
Strong paper scissors. And then for all the other roles, if they get filled and someone wants to fulfill that role, cool. If not, it doesn't like
There's no
dissolve
other
the
roles.
pool. Okay.
They're all members at large.
Yep. Treasurer's always
So-
me.
Rochambeau, folks. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it kinda came down to that at one point between me and somebody else for vice chair, so.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'll take it. You don't wanna do it, I'll take it.
It's great. It was a great experience.
It works out. Actually, it did work out really well.
All right. Well, if there is nothing else, we're gonna call it, make a motion to adjourn 5:25.
Second.
Hey.
All in favor? Aye.
Cheers to you.